Okay, we are back, and so as I said, we now want to make our finger pretty so that we can use it for our hand. And so let's show you again the brushes I'm using. Dynamic topology is still on. And so now we first want to make the finger, so that I don't forget it, slightly longer so that it goes inside the hand, because I later want to make a Boolean operation, and then it's better when the finger is inside the hand so that we don't get holes. So I make it like something like that, and so that just extends inside. I think it's not that important, but for me it works better when it's really inside. So now let's go down with the detail size, something like that. And now we want to clean up our finger to make it more nicely. We see at the joints the fingers are a little thicker, so we indicated this here already a little, and so we can scrape here a little more and here a little less. So we round this carefully, try to keep this flat because it's fingernail later, and so we work over our finger carefully, and let's add a little mass here on the sides, smaller brush side, so that's not quite as boxy as we have it. It should be boxy, but a little round also, just not too much. We don't want to have it look like a tube when we are finished. So we clean up, and as this is a tutorial that explains the structure, our goal is not to make a pretty hand, but the goal here is to make a hand that is in the end believable, so that it really looks like a hand of some people. So that's why I said in the first tutorial that please use your own hand as a reference, because then you have the best reference you can wish for. You can turn your hand in all directions and look how certain features are. So that looks already pretty good. I like how we got this cushion effect here. You see when I turn it around how the light plays on it. And I want to have a little more mass here on from the top. From this view it looks still a little too boxy, so I add just a little clay here in the middle to remove a little of this boxiness, and I smooth it in with a scrape brush. Okay, so it depends on how much flesh is on the finger. Sometimes on this here example not, sometimes we can see much more of the bones, and I make this in this example. Then we would cut in a little here and a little here and around this. Now you see it's exaggerated, but then we see the knuckles clearly. But I want to make it more fleshy like this one, so I fill in this again. So when you want to make more bony hands, you can simply do. And now I want to bring in a little more mass here in the sides for the knuckles, say as we have here in this reference photo, to really show off where the joints in from this top view of the finger. Let's zoom out. Okay, so all we need is to make this shape here more round on top. Again, good job for our scrape brush. scrape brush I use in the diffuse settings. I don't change anything. That's good. And now we sculpt in the fingernail, and when we zoom in here, we see the fingernail goes about halfway down in the segment, in the last segment here. So here's the joint, and the fingernail is about halfway down. This is also here in our reference sculpt. The fingernails go about halfway down. Okay, so we do this too, and here's our joint, and we can, this is not actually good for dynamic topologies, so we would use smaller polygons even, but when you want to bring it to a finished sculpt, you might want to indicate some of these creases, and you simply draw them in with a crease brush like this. So, but we wanted to do the fingernail, and we do this simply by drawing with a crease brush such a rounded rectangle where the, you see, like this. And now with a scrape brush and a small brush size, I round off this corner carefully, and this corner carefully, and now this is, yes, I think, and we see the finger is rather flat in looking in this direction, so we need to remove a little of this material here, make it a little larger, blend it in, so to say, so that it appears like being flat in this direction. So this is always how you sculpt. You look at your reference and you try to understand how the shapes are. Where are planes? What are the main angles? That's always important to know. I think that looks good. And now the last thing we'd want to do, the last detail, is making a crease here to separate the fingernail from the hand, from the finger. And this is as much detail as we should go with dynamic topology. Dynamic topology is not meant to sculpt details. Okay, I like this. So we call this finger now finished. Let's see how have we all features. I think our finger is a little on the thin side. When we look, this might work well for this, but this finger here is thicker on the thin, on this region, and this one too. So I want to bring this in just a little bit by choosing the snake hook brush and grabbing here and make it just a little bit thicker and push this inwards again. Yes, that's more that I'm happy with it. So now we go down in object mode, and we I use the bool tool now. First I duplicate my finger 4 times, and I rotate about the individual origin, which is here, hopefully. Let's see. Yes. And I grab it a little in this direction. And then the next, I duplicate. Okay. Yeah, first I make the duplications. And what we see, our fingers are a little too thick because the hand is smaller. So we need to scale our fingers in X direction. So scale X just a little bit. Scale X just a little bit. and this also. And now this can go to here, this can go to here, and duplicate it again for the pinky finger. Now they fit in. And now we make the length. We see the size of this is correct because it's the same length as this, about the same length as this square. And this finger needs to be longer, so we scale it in z direction is this. And how much is it longer? It's about as that the fingernail is about where it is. So like this. And this is again same, that's good. And the pinky finger needs to be quite smaller, so scale Z. And the pinky finger needs also be a little smaller in general, so scale something like that. Okay, so now we have the fingers in and we need a sump. So I grab this first finger, duplicate it again, and when we look at the sump or your own hand, the sump is a little wider than the other fingers, and it's shorter. So it's shorter, so we scale it in this direction, and I rotate it so that we can see better when we move it into place how it would look. So how can we judge if this is the correct length? We draw a curve like a circle, and then in this example here, in this is a male hand, this man has a finger, so when he would rotate it, it would hit the first joints here, this joint. In my hand, the sump is a little shorter, it goes just like here. So we can estimate when we draw here a circle. Yes, it's still a little long, so I grab it and push it more inwards. And we see the sump is rotated a little in this view. So I need to grab and put it here, and I rotate it a little in this view. And grab it. Okay, I think that is about the correct proportions. And now we select all these fingers and finally the hand. And I use the bool tool, and there's we can now use these settings here. We want to make a union, all should be one mesh later. So I press union and it calculates a moment. You can do this without bool tool by using a boolean modifier, but this is more comfortable when we want to make a boolean operation with so many objects. We check again if it looks okay. It does, and so we apply all so that it really makes one mesh. Have to wait a little, that's quite a calculation the Blender has to do here. And now it should, hopefully, it will be finished without crashing. We see. So we see it would have been better to not sculpt the hand in such high detail, then it would have gone quicker. But now we have here one mesh, and we can clean up now the transitions. So let's zoom in here. Now we can bring in these bigger knuckles. They sit quite under the border here, so I draw in enable dynamic topology. I forgot in a moment, and the detail size make it a little larger. That's two, something like that. So this is still too small. Okay, I draw in roughly where these knuckles are, and now the fingers transition to these knuckles. Let's smooth this area a little so that we get a better transition. And here between is it is deeper, so we cut in a little. Or we make with a crease brush. It's easier to do with a crease brush here, yes. So you see, sometimes it's better to choose a different brush if you have problems creating a form. So you see, I try to make these transitions here carefully, and now here the last finger should go into the side of the hand. Okay, we haven't paid too much attention how the hand fits in, how the fingers fit in, so yes, okay, we need to correct this a little. We add a little mass here, a little more here, because we need this drop down, and we plane it off to get the shape back. So now we can remove here just a little bit, round this off. Yes, okay, and round this off. And now here's this shape I spoke about, or almost, and we need to plane this in. And of course you can sculpt the hand from one box in the beginning and pull out the fingers and sculpt all the 5 fingers one by one. But of course then you have 5 times work for just the fingers, and it's quite tedious to do all the fingers one by one. I think that's why in comics, oops, wrong brush, undo. Why in comics often there are just 3 fingers or 4 fingers instead of 5, so that the workload is a little less for drawing. You see how we come along. Now I clean over the forms we have indicated and try to bring in the features we said. So here was this deepening, and here we have the clear transition to the arm. And I think here this should go more in the middle, so I correct this. You see, in sculpting when we make a mistake, let's see if we have another problem too. So this here, the width of this is about 3 fingers. I think that is not wide enough in our case. That's a problem, something like that. Okay, and let's shape it a little more like in this example here. Okay, and here's a little too thin. We see that because I didn't pay too much attention when I put the fingers, duplicated and put the fingers where they actually sit. So let's correct this by grabbing the finger and push it a little better into its place. And now we clean up the mess. And this is how the hands are from inside. So we need to see these joints from the other side. We do so, and we can emphasize it by going around here. And here's some mess again still. We need to see the pads. Okay, so let's see. Let's compare again with our reference, and what do we see? We see, or I see, and I hope you too, that we see I did put the sump not in the correct position. The sump is too long. So to correct this, I mask off all this area, and let's see, I mask off also a little from this, and I use now the mask brush with a large scale, and I smooth over to get a softer transition. And now I use a grab brush and try to grab the finger and push it inwards so that I get the correct length about here. And then I use a snake hook brush and remove the mask, and I try to make the sump a little thicker here at this place. Remember, we duplicated just the index finger, and of course this index finger is shaped a little different. So I try to pull now and get it correctly. And now we are here. I created an area which often happens in Dynapotopo, and you see this is quite messy, and we can smooth this now, but if it's even more messy, then smoothing is not working. What we can do then is increase the detail size, brush over, and you see the mess is gone, and then lower the detail size again and just sculpt in what you erased with the larger polygons. So when you rotate and with a twist brush, or like we did, you use a grab brush to move parts, then the mesh easily gets quite messy, and you can clean up in the way I just showed you, with enlarging the polygon size and then brush over, and then here I want to bring in we erased this. Okay, now I think we are getting somewhere. Let's just round off here a little better. Hand arm is still on the thin side. And now let's see. It looks, yes, it is a slim hand we have, but it's okay. And from this side is also a slim hand. I looked probably too much at my own hand, but the only thing what I want to have here's a slight curve, and here's also, I want to bring this feature into, so I use a snake hook brush again and just grab very slightly here here and like this one. Yes, and from this side to just a little bit. Okay, and the last thing I want to do is to round off this border here. I said we want to have the hand boxy, but not as boxy as we had it here. So the last details we need is trying to bring in the tendons more, and for this I like to use what is this, a standard brush, or however it calls it, the simple brush. And so I draw in this tendon, and this other one here is often also visible, so I bring in this, and then we plane in to make it a little more pleasing to the eye. And the other tendons are from these two fingers. Usually this is just visible from the ring finger. The others are usually not so much visible. The other one. Okay, so now let me see. Okay, now I just want to show with one example. Finally, here is a plane. We can you see I'm always constantly going over the sculpt and try to improve it. The knuckles here could be a little better. So the knuckle is here. That's where we draw this end of the box about, and this is quite a large knuckle. Goes actually like this one, and then we plane in you see when we try to make the planes better readable, the sculpt becomes better. Even though it's still a messy sculpt, I think the hand reads clearly as the hand and the proportions are correct. It could be a hand of a real person. Okay, so in the last minute I want to show you a method how we can pose the hand, since usually we don't want to have the hand in this plain pose. That's simply we go out of dynamic topology and say we want to bend just the finger here. Then we can choose carefully with a masking brush the finger, so look that you get all polygons of the finger, but none of the finger on the next finger, and we inverse the mask, and now we want to rotate it. Oh, the mask should be a little just to the joint here, and we go with the masking brush and we smooth over this area to make a softer transition, so that when we rotate there's a little missing from the mask. So then when we rotate we don't get too much mess, and we zoom out and use a twist brush, and we choose here view plane. This means the rotation plane is a view plane and the rotation axis is orthogonal to the view plane, meaning it faces us, and we use as a curve the rectangular curve. And now I make the brush as large as I can, click where the rotation center should be, click, and then I rotate. Oops, that's of course too much, and like this, for example. And then I can zoom in. This was a little too much, undo. And I grab with the masking tool, the next, go back into the mask, smooth. We forgot something there, and now we can rotate again. And now I click here and just a little bit say. And in this way, Alt M removes the mask. In this way here you see I haven't catched correctly the finger. There was a little missing. So you really have to look that you, but this is easily cleaned up with smoothing. So in this way you can pose your hand like you want, and so you can sculpt the hand in a relaxed position like this, and then pose it later, or you put in an armature if you're working in Blender. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and you learned something. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to see your hand sculpts in the images. Thank you.